Can you hear me now? No?
Yeah.
You can hear me? Hi, Avi. Shalom. Wait 1 second. Okay. Welcome. Ready? Not ready? Fine. So we are going to the next Mishnah. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? You can hear me. We're in Perek Aleph of Pirkei Avos. We're starting now a new section, a new Mishnah, Mishnah Yud. Shmaya va'avtalion kiblu mehem. Shmaya omer, ehov et hamalacha, usna et harabanut, va'al titvada lerashut. So this Mishnah has 3 sections to it. The first one says you should love working, which is somewhat controversial in certain circles. You should love working. The second section says you should hate the rabbinate. It's also quite controversial if you read it at surface value. And then the third section is you shouldn't make yourself known to the reshut, which in this context means the government. So let's go through all these 3 sections on a pshat level. We'll start on a pshat level, and then hopefully we'll give a new insight to understand it with a little more depth. So on the pshat level, ehov et hamalacha, this is what the Mefarshim here say. Rashi gives a number of reasons why you should love working. Rashi says you should love working because if you don't work, you'll need money and you may end up stealing. Rashi says you should love working because if you don't work, you'll end up having to take charity. Rashi says you should love working because if you don't work, you'll have a shortened life. As the pasuk says, soneh matanot lichyeh, you'll have to get presents, and that shortens a person's life. Rather, if a person wants an extended life, that's one derech in the Mefarshim, that it's worth your while to work. And another derech in the Mefarshim, which the Rav Avadia Bar Tanura says, and also the Rabbeinu Yonah brings it, and this one we're going to take hopefully a little deeper. It says that if you don't work, then you'll be bored. And if you're bored, then I'm sure we're familiar with the Gomorrah in Ksuvas. The Gomorrah in Ksuvas says that a man who gets married to a woman, even if she's wealthy and she brings in many servants, she still has to do some minimal work. And the Gemara asks, why does she have to work? Like we're bringing all servants. There are 2 opinions in the Gemara. The one opinion is that if a woman doesn't work, she'll end up with zima. She'll end up acting inappropriately. And the other opinion in the Gemara says that if she doesn't work, she'll end up being bored. And that boredness will cause her to go crazy. She'll become insane from the boredom, and therefore she has to work. So the Mefarshim take that Gemara regarding a woman and they apply it over here. They say, why should you love work? You should love work because without work, then you'll go insane. Either you'll go insane or chas v'shalom other inappropriate.
11th grade Hebrew or Jewish history?
I was just dealing with pancake batter. 1 minute. Did you make pancake batter cereal?
Oh, we're back. So the question, which is, I guess, my major question on this is, those interpretations don't need to say ehov melacha. They could have said bocher b'malacha or aseh melacha. Right, let's go through them again. Rashi said that you should choose to do work. Why? Because if you don't choose.
Guys at my door. Hold on 1 second. Oh, no, not mine.
Okay.
Could we silence that?
I'm pretty sure. I just don't want to say it and then leave on, but I am almost positive.
Is anyone a host over here? They can put them on silent. Okay. So question number 1, which is on the first parish, the first section. Great. The first section is, why does it say love melacha? Because really all these interpretations are very b'di'evet. If I don't have work, then I'm going to be poor. And if I'm poor, I'm going to be a bandit. And if I'm a bandit, or I'm going to take tzedakah. And then my life. So what? So I have to love work because of that? According to Rashi, wouldn't it be better if I'm just rich to begin with? I mean, according to Rashi, it only applies to poor people. It doesn't apply to wealthy people. If you just go with Rashi's pshat. If you have plenty of money, according to Rashi, if you happen to have inherited money, or you've worked for some years now, you've retired early, should you keep working? According to Rashi, no, you don't need to. You're not going to become a bandit. You're not going to ask for charity. You're safe. So why should you love melacha? Love? Do I have to love it because of that? It's a necessity that I have to do so that I don't become a bandit. I don't take charity. I don't have to love it. And even if you go according to Rabbeinu Yonah and Rav Davidson Pirkei Avos one, which is that if a person doesn't work, they go crazy. And that also applies to someone who's wealthy. Because even if you have money and even if you want to retire early, then you shouldn't retire early because you'll go insane. You'll get bored and you'll go insane. Still, I love working because of that. Meaning, there's a b'diavad situation here, which is that I'm bored. If I'm bored, then the good advice of Shmaya is to go work. But loving something sounds like it's a lachatchila. That's ideally what you should go with. Over here, it sounds like you don't even need to. And just to strengthen that question, to strengthen that last question, the Gemara there in Ksuvas says, what is the nafka minna between the two opinions about whether it's zima or whether it's shamum? So the nafka minna is if she plays games. If she plays games, she won't be bored, but she still might do zima. So the Gemara there says, well, if she has games to play and she's occupied in mischak and other things, then you don't have to worry about this. Now, interestingly, both Avadia Bar Tanura and Rabbeinu Yonah don't mention the zima reason. They both mention the shiamum reason, which means that equally you could do work or you could play games. That would be another good solution. So when it says here, I have melacha, or your Nintendo Game Boy, that would also be an equal thing you could do, because it's as long as you're occupied, you're not going to come to do get bored, and you're not going to come to do averas or go insane, we're safe. So the major question number one on the Meforshim is, I understand that it says you should work, I understand that it's a value, but why do you say you have to love doing it? It sounds like it's a b'diavad. Either it's a b'diavad for someone poor, or it's a b'diavad for someone bored, but it's not a lachatchila hadracha that Chachamim are giving us that you should love it because of that. That's question number one. Okay, let's go to the next stage. Usnat rabbanut. You should hate the rabbinate. Why should you hate the rabbinate? So Rashi interprets, what is rabbinate referring to? It's not chas v'shalom referring to being rabban. It doesn't say sonei ta rabbanim. Chas v'shalom. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say hate rabbis. It says hate the position of authority. Hate the rabbanut, the fact that there's an authority here. Says Rashi, what does it mean? You should hate being in a position of authority lefi shemekaberet et ba'aleya, because it buries those who are involved in it. Meaning, in other words, it's saying you should try and avoid taking a position of authority because it's going to bury the ones who, and here our same question that we asked on section 1, we're going to ask on section 2. So maybe you should say, mana min harabbanut, avoid it. Why should you avoid it? Because it buries the people who are involved in it. But you should hate it because of that? Why should you hate it? What if someone's given a position to be a rabbi of a yeshiva or to be a rabbi of a community? Should he say, I hate this? Is that his mindset that he's supposed to have? This is disgusting. This is horrible. This is putrid. This is horrid. I hate it. Is that the mindset that Shemaiah is coming to instruct us with? If you want to tell us avoid it, say avoid it. Mana min rabbanut. But why is it saying sanat? Okay. And section number 3, al titvadeh l'rashut. You shouldn't make yourself known to the government, let's say. So here Rashi says, because they only draw you close when they have a need. They do it for their own selves. So you should know that if you come to them because you want a favor, they're not going to do you a favor, because everything they do for themselves. But even here, the language is very challenging. Al titvadeh l'rashut means not only avoid them, not only hate them, but it's don't even let them know you exist. To run away from any contact with them. Why are we so harsh here? If it's saying that they only bring you close because they have a need, then okay, maybe it's saying don't go into a relationship with them thinking you're going to benefit, because everything they do for their own benefit. So it's giving you a warning. But why such a harsh language of don't even let them know you exist? It seems much more harsh than it needs to be. Those are the 3 sections of the Mishnah and our understandings of them on a pshat level. And now we're going to tape it hopefully a little deeper. Shmaya is saying 3 things. And like we've been using as a pattern and this is the Maharal's concept, the broad concept is the Maharal's idea, that whenever someone says three things, it's not random three things that he said. It's not that, by the way, he said this, and some other occasion he said that, and some other occasion he said a third thing. Rather, everything that he says is one theme. It's connected in one way. Sometimes it's all the same idea. Sometimes it's a building, a stage, a progression, stage upon stage. But it's always, the three ideas are connected in some way. And it's our responsibility to find a way to connect them. So when I was learning the Mishnah this morning, then I was bothered by a question, which I started contemplating. I discussed with Hanania. And then I came to an idea. And then I saw a similar idea in Rav Ferber, who also has a commentary on Pirkei Avos. And then I have a friend who's a Makubal. And afterwards I phoned him because it's got a little Kabbalistic idea to it. I phoned him and I asked him his opinion on this idea. And he was very excited. He said, I've learned that Zohar before, but I never interpreted it in that way. And I said, Baruch Hashem. I didn't realize I was quoting a Zohar. And we were all very excited about it. And I want to share this idea with you now. And that's going to give us an understanding on the first part primarily. But then in light of that, it's also going to give us an understanding of the next two pieces. So we're answering question number one. What does it mean, ehov et ha-malacha? What does it mean to love malacha? So it's very clear to everybody that we're not saying you should love malacha because of the money you get from it. Right? From a Western society, there was a boy who learned in Camp Yavneh 6 years ago, and he went into marketing. And when I visited him when I was recruiting, and he drove me somewhere, so we were talking in the car, and I said, how's marketing going? He said, it's terrible. I said, why? He said, I went to a conference for marketing, and there was a couple of hundred people in the room, and the cheerleader got up there on the stage and said to everyone, what do we want? And he said, I wasn't sure what the answer was supposed to be, but everyone else was sure, and they said, money! And then he said, what do you want a lot of? And they said, money! And he said, I'm in the wrong place. And he left that organization and he joined the chief rabbi's office to use his skills in marketing to do good and bring good to Klal Yisrael with him. Baruch Hashem. So it's clearly not saying you should love the malacha for the money aspect of it. It's saying you should love malacha for malacha. Meaning it's not saying you should love some side benefit. It's saying love the malacha. So any side benefit that we're going to speak about now is not what it's saying. So even if it's saying that malacha is beneficial, because if you're bored, then it will stop you from doing sin or from going insane. That's true. It's definitely true. But we're trying to understand why it says love malacha. Why should you love the malacha itself? Why do you need the malacha to love? It sounds like it's a b'diavad, not a lachatchila. But it says love malacha. It should be a lachatchila. So this is the thought that we came to. There's two ways of looking at a connection between two things. In the language of yeshiva, we say one is a siba and one is a siman. One is cause and one is the effect. Now, the first way we looked at it was that I'm bored, and being bored is going to make me insane. And that's my siba. That's the reason why I'm looking for something to do now. Because I'm bored, I'm looking for something to do. So because of being bored, the siba, that need that I have, so I'll go and do work. Meaning that being bored is the primary, and the work is the solution that I found because I'm bored. But it's the siba. That's one way of looking at it. But that wouldn't explain why it says ehov. And then I do Averos, and I go insane, so I have to work. But it's not that you love the malacha for the malacha's sake. But now we can understand on a much deeper level. It's not that because I'm bored or because I'm poor, that's why I work. Then you wouldn't love the work. But rather, you have to understand when Hashem makes the world, He makes the world in a way where the malacha is our purpose. That's the end goal. If you're not fulfilling what you're supposed to be doing, then of course you're going to be bored. Meaning, don't look at the bored as the siba. The fact that I'm bored is the primary factor, so I do work to solve it, like using work as a crutch to solve my boredom. No, it's the exact other way around. Hashem designed you to be productive and to be involved in work. That's the way that Hashem designed you. Now, if you're doing that appropriately, you're doing it well, then you will feel an inner sense of satisfaction because you're just doing what you were designed to do. You will be doing what it's the will of Hashem that you should be involved in. If you're not doing the work you're supposed to be doing, that's where, as a simon that you're not doing Hashem's will, you'll feel bored because you're not doing the work you need to do. You're not fulfilling your mission. Now, where do we see sources that back that up? There's a pasuk that says, Adam la'amal yulad. Man is made for putting in effort, for putting in work. And this is now the quote from the Zohar. The Zohar says, in the beginning of Parshas Bereshis, Asher bara Elokim la'asot. Says the Zohar. What does it mean, Asher bara Elokim la'asot? Hashem began the creation of the world. And he handed over the continuing of the creation of the world for us to be involved in the work of this world, that we will therefore continue Hashem's creation. Asher bara Elohim, Hashem made the world in such a way, la'asot, that we will continue the work. Which means to say that if a person is involved in this work, whether he's poor or whether he's rich, Hashem designed us not like malachim, that they're already complete, but he designed us in a world which is lacking, so that we will be doing tikkun ha'olam, that we will be continuing the work in the world that Hashem designed. And what does that mean on a practical level? It means that Hashem put us in this world, la'avda or l'shamra, to continue advancing the world, and that's the tikkun olam. But the difference between the way the goyim advanced the world and the way that we advance the world is they're attributing it back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a goy goes out to work, if his mindset is, my goal in working is the money, then he's placed himself in the center. He's not doing tikkun ha'olam by continuing Hashem's creation. He's doing his own thing. What makes him feel good, so he'll have money. However, if a Jew goes out to work and he's involved in the work in any profession, and he's doing it with the mindset of, I recognize that I have halachos, and I recognize that as Hashem's will that I should do this in a certain way. I'm doing this within the laws of ribis. I'm doing this within the laws of paying a worker on time. I'm doing this within the laws of shmiras halashon. All Hashem's halachos I'm keeping. And then I'm looking, how can I advance the world? How can I develop the world? And I go into the world, then you are doing the will of Hashem. Now you can understand what it means, ehovet ha-malacha. The malacha is not a problem. It's not a mistake. It's equal both for poor people and for rich people, because the reason why we were created, Adam HaRishon, la'ovda u'l'shamra, and all of mankind, la'adam la'amal yulad, was made for the creation. We were created la'asot, that we will be involved in continuing the creation of the world, finding what more we can develop in every field. But our unique contribution is that everything that we do in all those fields is attributed back to Hashem. And then you won't be bored. And then you won't go insane. And then you won't need to ask for charity. All those things are side points. But the main point is that doing the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the first stage of Ehovet HaMalacha. Don't think of it as a b'diavad. You're doing the will of Hashem. You're bringing more Shechina into the world, recognition of Hashem into the world, not in the way the angels do it, which is disconnected, but the desire of Hashem is that He be present in this world. And when you were involved in agriculture, and when you were involved in finance, and when you were involved in computers, every area that you're involved in, if you do that work, and you develop the world, and you attribute it back to Hashem, you say, all the koach that I have is Hashem's koach. Hashem's enabling me to take the next stage, then you will love it. Why will you love it? It will give you a sense of satisfaction. But why? Because you are aware that you are doing the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So stage number one, Ehovet HaMalacha. Now, there are two dangers that will present themselves to a person when involved in the world and doing malacha. One comes from within and one comes from without. And these two issues that a person will have, you have to be very careful because it will distract you from recognizing you're doing Hashem's will. How can you be involved and not be distracted? So the first stage is Snat Rabbanut. What does it mean now deeply, Snat Rabbanut? And this idea now I'm saying is from the Ruach Chaim of the Nefesh Chaim Rav Chaim of Volozhin. He says that the first 2 parts are both connected. When you are involved in any position, there are 2 elements to that position. There's the work itself, which is the responsibility that you have, and separate to that, there's the prestige that you get by being involved in that work. We could give the easy example of being a rabbi, but we could also give an example of any other area. If let's say you are a rabbi of a community or in a yeshiva, or even if you're a father in a family. So there's the malacha aspect of it, which is your responsibility, your role, the malacha that you're doing. And there's also the power that you have, the prestige that you have. You see that R before my name. You know I worked 5 years to get that R before my name. Or even if you're a parent, then you have this sense of like, I make the rules in the family, I get to decide what's going on here. Or if you work in high tech, you say, high, you know why it's called high tech? High, because we're higher than everybody else. High tech, you get that? So in all those areas, there's the area of the work that you're involved in, and there's the area of the prestige. Now you might think, well, maybe I won't get involved in the work because it will lead me to be arrogant. Comes the Mishnah and says, here both parts together. Be involved in it. Be involved. Ehavat malacha usnat rabbanut. Be involved in the work. Love the responsibility aspect. Love the work that you have to put in, the contribution that you're making. Love that aspect because it's the Ratzon Hashem. Usnat rabbanut. And hate the element, which is the prestige, the arrogance, the gaiva that comes with it. And why do you have to hate it? Because hating is a tool that we have in our soul which disconnects us. Love is the tool that we have in our soul which connects us, and hate disconnects us. So if you are Moshe Rabbeinu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to you and says, I want you to take Am Yisrael out, and you say, Lo ish anochi, lo ish devarim anochi, I'm not so worthy of it, that's appropriate one time. But then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will come and say to you, I need you, there's no one else. And you say, I'll take the job, but you still remain, anav mikol adam. You don't take arrogance from it. You don't say, you know who I am, I took the Jewish people out. No, anav mikol adam. So therefore, danger number 1 comes from within. When you're involved in Hashem's work in this world, when you're declaring Hashem as Melech in this world by the work you're doing, continuing His Bria, la'asot, the danger is that you might take credit to yourself. And to that we say, don't stop working, but snat rabbanut. Hate the prestige aspect of it. That's point number 1. Now, point number 2 is that the other danger is not the danger that comes from within, but the danger that comes from without. When other people, and we're talking specifically about people who are in charge, authority, when you look to them about your position, let's go back to the example we gave of a rabbi of a shul. Let's say there's a rabbi of a shul and he has a committee who's above him. Now, when you have a committee above you, then they take power, they take authority, which you answer to, where you forget that it's the will of Hashem that you're doing. If you work in a particular company and you have a boss and he makes decisions about you, then you forget that it's the will of Hashem that you're doing, because you're always trying to find favor in the eyes of your committee or favor in the eyes of your boss. And if you live in a country and there's a government in that country, and of course you're keeping the laws of the country, but if you're trying to say, what new position can I get? How can I find favor in the eyes of these people? Then you will forget that you're doing the will of Hashem. It won't be la'asot. It won't be doing the will of Hashem. So those are the 3 stages of the Mishnah. Stage number 1, recognize the malacha that you're doing is not b'di'eved. It's the will of Hashem that you will continue the bria in the world. And once you recognize it's the will of Hashem, don't think, oh, yeah, broch, I was poor, I had to go out and work. Oh, yeah, broch, I'm bored, I have nothing to do. Okay, I'll go and work. Recognize you're doing the will of Hashem and love it. Tune in to the feeling, the emotion of love. That's stage number 1. Now be warned. I'm warning you, there are 2 danger points ahead of you. 2 things that may trip you up. One from within, one from without. The one from within is that you might come to take credit for all your work. You might come to look at the prestige. Sana et rabbanut, hate the prestige. Disconnect yourself from any ideas that you are the one who's doing it. It's all the will of Hashem. And the second problem is that you might look to whoever you see as an authority, the reshut. You look at them as an authority and you say, I'm doing it for them. I want to find favor in their eyes. Al titvader reshut. Don't be known by them. Don't even think about them. They're not the point. You're doing it for the will of Hashem. Of course, you'll do it within the rules. We're not saying, like, don't pay taxes here, chas v'shalom. We're not saying, Al titvader reshut. Make sure no one catches you, chas v'chalila. We're saying, don't look to them to be the ones why you're doing what you're doing. Al titvader. Don't be known that you're doing it for them. Rather, you're doing it because it's the will of Hashem. Ehovet ha'melacha asher bara Elokim la'asot. For you to continue doing the will of Hashem, and that's the purpose of our creation. And that's why you can love it. Beautiful interpretation. Yashar koach.
Thank you, Rabbi.